Good day, class. So for today's discussion, we will continue to discuss Module 2 Performing Arts, Literature, Ornaments, and Pottery. Let's proceed to literature. Because the Philippines has so many islands and is inhabited by different ethnic groups, Philippine mythology and superstitious beliefs are very diverse. Even the story of Malakas and Maganda vary from region to region, but specific elements of the story remains the same. So in Malakas and Maganda, there is a huge bird that splits a giant bamboo, and Malakas and Maganda emerge from the Alps. So in addition to this, Philippine mythology is the body of stories and epics originating from and part of the Philippine indigenous Philippine folk religions, which include various ethnic faiths distinct from one another. Philippine mythology is derived from Philippine folk literature, which is the traditional oral literature of the Filipino people. So this means it refers to a wide range of material due to the ethnic mix of the Philippines. Each unique ethnic group has its own stories and myths to tell. While on the other hand, the Philippines superstitious beliefs is a handful of superstitious beliefs exist that are very famous amongst the natives. So these beliefs are typically introduced to them at a very early age through children's books or bedtime stories. It is believed that if natives are not careful to follow them, a curse will befall upon them. So for some Filipino superstitions are the following. So we have those examples like knocking on wood. It is an action of Filipinos to do to counter a negative remark. So for example, if a friend were to say, I might get hit by a car while crossing the road, you have to knock on wood to avoid it from happening. Next, we have the well-known saying, tabi-tabi po. It is a common phrase said out loud when passing through forested and grassy areas. It is also expected to be said in areas where spirits are believed to dwell. For example, in an area called cemetery. So kapag dumaan yung isang tao sa lugar na hindi pamilyar sa kanya, kagaya ng gubat o kakahuyan, kailangan niya muna magsalita ng tabi-tabi po bago dumaan. It is a way to show respect and avoid disturbing spirits and other mythical creatures who live in that areas. And we have also superstitious beliefs called pagpag. For example, kapag nanggaling ka sa lamay or sa bahay ng namatayan at papauwi ka pa lang sa inyo, a Filipino practice would be not go home straight away, as it is believed that the soul of the dead would follow one back to his her house. You may stop anywhere you please just as long as you do not, or you don't go straight home. So example of famous Philippine myth was written by Remedios F. Ramos, titled Si Malakas at Si Maganda. The story of how the Philippines was created. So in the tale, Malakas is the name of the first man on earth, while the Maganda is the name of the first woman on earth. They are born out of a bamboo stalk that is cracked open by a bird. So the names Malakas and Maganda also denote a deeper meaning and truth about the Filipino culture. Filipinos consider women to be maganda, means beautiful, sweet, and soft, while men as malakas is a strong and sturdy being to whom the family can depend on at all times. The final part about the children who fled out to the sea and eventually came back as white foreigners seems to have been added to the original version that had been handed down orally over the years from generation to generation. So, in other words, the man was named Malakas or Strong One, the woman Maganda or the Beautiful One, two traits which makes the Filipino unique among its Asian neighbors. Their strength and resiliency despite a lot of adversity and trials which come their way, and their beauty which is reflected in their surroundings. Now let's proceed to performing arts. So we have the flute. So the flute is a family of musical instruments in the woodwind group. Unlike woodwind instrument with reeds, a flute is an aerophone or reedless wind instrument that produces its sound from the flow of air across an opening. So where did the first flute originally came from or come from? The flutes made from bird bone and mammoth ivory come from a cave in southern Germany which contains early evidence for the occupation of Europe by modern humans, or what we call this the Homo sapiens. Scientists use carbon dating to show that the flutes were between 42,000 to 43,000 years old. So the early flutes were played into different positions. Here in the Philippines, they are played vertically like a recorder or horizontally. Was called the transverse position. We have also another flute called the tompong, also in sea among the Maranao. It is a type of Philippine bamboo flute used by Maguindanaon. It is a half the size of the largest bamboo flute, the palindag. So the other ethnic musical instruments played in the Philippines are the following. So we have the buting. It is a bow with a single hemp 5-string block with a small stick. We have also pasing. Pasing is a 2-string bamboo with a hole in the middle from Apayao people. We have the bandurria. It is a part of rondalla and cymbal. It has a shorter neck and 14 strings compared to its Spanish ancestor. We have the famous well-known instrument called the kudyape. A kudyape is a 2-string flute from Mindanao. Next, we have the aerophones or balungodyong. A balungodyong is a vertical flute from the Pinatubo Aita. We have the cordophones or the bamboo violin, a 3-string violin of Aita people. We have also tuned gongs or agong. Agong is a large gong suspended from an ornate frame. We have also the mimbra nupons or agong atamlang. It is a bamboo slit drum. And we have the idiophones or kubing. A kubing is a jaws harp from the Maranao. Already. So let us now proceed to our ornaments. So we have the bulol. A bulol, also known as tinatago, is a carved wooden figure used to guard the rice crop by the Ifugao and their sub-tribe Kalanguya peoples of the northern Luzon. The sculptures are highly stylized, it's a representation of ancestors, and are thought to gain power from the presence of the ancestral spirit. Bulol are used in ceremonies associated with rice production and with healing.
Creation of the bulol involves alwen bulol ritual by a priest to ensure that the statue gains power. Bulol or tinatago is a carved wooden figure used to guard rice crop by the Ifugao peoples of northern Luzon. The sculptures are highly stylized representation. So where does bulol originated? Bulol describes as a figure of male rice deity in the 19th century or earlier in Ifugao. This standing male figure representing a rice deity from the Ifugao people of northern Luzon Island in the Philippines. It is an outstanding and highly important expression of the foremost tradition of anthropomorphic sculpture in the northern Philippines.
Next, we have the parol. A parol is an ornamental, star-shaped Christmas lantern from the Philippines. It is traditionally made out of bamboo and paper and comes in various sizes and shapes. But generally, the basic star pattern remains dominant. So the parol's traditional simple design may be credited to Francisco Estanislao, an artisan from province of Pampanga, who crafted a five-pointed paper star lantern in year 1908. Parol means lantern in English. The parol is a star-shaped ornament which originated in the Philippines during the Spanish colonization when Spaniards brought Christianity to the country. So the parol represent during the Festival of Lights in the Philippines. The traditional bamboo and paper parol or star lanterns symbolize the victory of light over darkness, as well as hope and goodwill. Next, we have the pottery in the Philippines. So we have the manunggol jar. The manunggol jar is a unique Neolithic secondary burial jar with an incised running scroll and impressed decorations. It is the only burial jar of its kind in the Philippines. So manunggol jar is very beneficial to the Philippine history. Means to say that it is very important artifact to the Philippine history. The manunggol jar is considered a living evidence of the Filipinos' shared cultural legacy with their Austronesian ancestors, since marks of their tradition and culture were seen in various areas of the Philippines and in numerous ethnic tribes. And next we have the maitom jar as part of our Philippine pottery. So the jars are commonly known today as maitom jars. They are made of earthenware, which means that this type of jar is a pottery made of clay fired to a porous state which can be made impervious to liquids by the use of a glaze, and are characterized by their design that suggests human figures with complete or partial facial features of the first inhabitants in Mindanao. Furthermore, they give emphasis to the Filipinos' popular belief of life after death. So in the year 1991, the National Museum Archaeological Team discovered anthropomorphic secondary burial jars in Ayub Cave in Barangay Pinol, Maitom, Sarangani, Mindanao, Philippines. The jars are commonly known today as maitom jars. They are made of earthenware and are characterized by their design that suggests human figures with complete or partial facial features. According to Dr. Eusebio Dizon, head of archaeological team, this type of burial jars are remarkably unique and intriguing, maybe because they have not been found elsewhere in Southeast Asia. Thus, this means that many archaeologists from Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Burma, and Indonesia gained interest on this initial find, and a number of archaeological, either government or privately sponsored excavations have been conducted to recover these artifacts. So, these jars have characteristics that belong to the developed Metal Age period in the Philippines, date of 190 BC to 500 AD. So according to the laboratory results determined through radiocarbon dating, these secondary burial jars date back to the Metal Age. So most of the jars are now on display at the National Museum of the Philippines in Manila. The town has a museum with maitom jars. However, the jars are only replicas. According to the town government, they intend for maitom jars to be returned to Maitom town from Manila once a proper museum with high-tech conservation capabilities has been established. Unfortunately, funding for the museum from the national government is scarce.